When I bought the Little Blue Craftsman on Meadowlark Drive, I thought I'd found peace. A quiet street, neighbors who waved from behind picket fences. A place where the loudest sound was the morning rustle of sprinklers. After 10 years of apartment life, it felt like I'd finally arrived. But that feeling didn't last. Not once Karen Holloway decided I was her new hobby. She lived directly across from me, in a larger beige 2-story, with solar panels, and a yard so immaculate. It looked artificial. HOA royalty. Not officially, of course. She was just the secretary. But everyone knew she pulled the strings. Phil, the HOA president, was barely lucid half the time. Karen was the real power behind the bake sale smiles and block party rules. The trouble started small. A missing package here and there. At first, I blamed the courier. The first time it happened, a pair of wireless earbuds. I let it slide. But then my electric drill disappeared. A birthday gift from my sister never showed. I called the delivery company. Left at doorstep, they said. And the photo confirmed it. Sitting right there on my welcome mat. But I never saw it. Then came the book, a signed first edition copy of The Invisible Man, a gift from an old college friend. I'd waited months for it. And just like that, gone. I stood on my porch, turning in circles, my stomach sinking. That's when I knew. Someone wasn't just unlucky. Someone was stealing, and it didn't take long to narrow it down. I checked. The footage on my doorbell camera. The angle wasn't perfect, but it was clear enough. 11:17 a.m. A familiar figure strolls into frame. Visor, sunglasses, a pastel tennis skirt, and a small white poodle trotting alongside. She glances around, lifts the package, and vanishes across the street. Karen. She didn't even hesitate, like she owned it. Like my doorstep was just another shelf at Target. I watched the clip twice, stunned. Then I walked straight to the HOA office, a prefab trailer near the community pool that doubled as Phil's second home. He was in his usual chair, flipping through paperwork with the urgency of a glacier. I handed him my phone. Karen's stealing packages. This isn't the first one. She took a signed book off my porch yesterday. Phil squinted at the screen, nodded slowly, then gave the kind of non-committal shrug politicians use when they want to avoid choosing sides. Huh, could be anybody. My jaw tightened. Phil, she's wearing her HOA lanyard. That's her dog, her haircut, her house. Come on, he sighed. Look, I'm not saying you're wrong, but we can't just start accusing people. HOA doesn't deal with theft. That's a civil issue. Then who does deal with it? He rubbed his temple. You could file a police report, sure, but I'd hate for this to become a neighborhood drama. Karen's been a part of this community for 15 years. Maybe talk to her first. Talk to the thief, I said, laughing bitterly. Yeah, I'll think about it. I walked out before I said something I'd regret. Back home, I stewed. My porch had become a buffet, and Karen helped herself anytime she pleased. And no one, not Phil, not the HOA, not even the neighbors who surely had their own stories, was willing to stand up to her. I sat on my porch that evening, staring across the street. Her blinds were open. Inside, she moved through her spotless living room with a wine glass in hand, humming along to a song I couldn't hear. Her poodle dozed on the rug. She looked untouchable, like someone who'd never once been told no. That's when the idea started to form, slowly at first, like fog rising in the morning. A plan, a way to hit her back, not with violence, but with something she couldn't ignore. I wouldn't call the cops. I wouldn't beg the HOA. I'd give her exactly what she wanted. Only this time, the package would bite back. End of section 1. Let me know when you're ready for section 2, and I'll continue the story with consistent tone, rising tension, and the revenge setup. I spent the next morning mapping out every step of my revenge. It had to be perfect, not just payback, but undeniable proof. Karen had been stealing from me in plain sight. Now, I'd give her a delivery she'd never forget. First, I upgraded my security setup, a 4K motion-activated camera, hidden inside a fake solar light by the mailbox. Another tucked under the eaves, aimed straight at the porch. I tested the angles, lighting, even sound. Everything had to be clear. If I was going to catch the queen thief red-handed, I'd need footage that couldn't be dismissed with a shrug. Then came the package. I wanted something poetic, something natural, but chaotic, dangerous, but not deadly. That's when I remembered my friend Jonah from college. Now a beekeeper in the foothills of Northern California. We hadn't spoken in years, but when I explained the situation, he didn't hesitate. "You want a box of live bees?" he asked, half laughing. "I want a small swarm, contained." Docile but startled easily, he chuckled. "I'll overnight you a ventilated box with about 20. They'll be sleepy by the time they get there. Warm them up and, well, they'll wake up cranky." Perfect. The package arrived the following Thursday, just in time for the weekend, when Karen was most active. I took the box inside, careful not to rattle it. The faint hum inside was oddly satisfying. The bees were calm, but that wouldn't last. Prep the decoy box. A brand new pair of noise-canceling headphones listed on the label, addressed to me in big block letters. Inside, I tucked Jonah's bee container, secured in place with foam to prevent jostling. Then I resealed the shipping box with clear tape, positioned it squarely on the porch, and activated every camera. Then I waited. The sun climbed. The mail. Truck came and went. A jogger passed by, oblivious. I sat at the window with binoculars and a cup of lukewarm coffee, nerves buzzing harder than the bees. At 11:06 a.m., the screen door across the street creaked open. There she was, Karen in her usual daytime uniform, floppy sun hat, yoga capris, and that poodle that never seemed to need walking. She strolled out, not toward her mailbox, but diagonally across the street, right toward my house. No hesitation, no guilt. I hit record. She paused at the edge of my yard, looked around, then bent and scooped the box into her arms like it was her birthright. She didn't even glance at the return label. I watched, breath shallow, as she crossed back toward her house. The box clutched casually at her side. My cameras caught everything. She disappeared inside. 3 minutes later, it began. First, a yelp, then a shriek, then the unmistakable sound of glass breaking. I bolted out the door and jogged halfway across the street, phone in hand. Her front window was open, and through it came the high-pitched chaos of pure panic. "Get them off me! Oh my God, they're in my hair! Ralphie, run! Get out of the kitchen!" Through the slats of her blinds, I saw her flailing with a dish towel, spinning in frantic circles. The poodle darted past the window in full retreat. Karen swatted at the air like she was fighting invisible demons. And then, gold. She burst out her front door, still flailing, bees trailing her like angry punctuation marks. She dashed onto the lawn, screaming, "Help! Bees! I've been attacked!" Couple of neighbors emerged, startled and confused. Phil stepped out from next door, holding a half-eaten sandwich. "What the hell's going on?" I waved my phone. Looks like someone opened a package that wasn't theirs. Karen froze mid-lawn. Realization dawning. Her eyes met mine, wild and watering. "You did this to me." "No, Karen," I said, calmly. "You did this to yourself." Phil glanced between us. Wait, was that your box? I turned the screen toward him and played back the footage, clear as daylight. Karen swiping the package from my porch. Again, gasps from the gathering crowd. Phil's face went pale. Karen sputtered. I thought it was misdelivered. I was going to return it. To your closet, I asked. Like my earbuds, my book, my drill. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. The neighbors had seen enough. The tide was turning, and this was just the beginning. Friday morning dawned bright and warm. The perfect kind of day for a little porch piracy. By 10:30 a.m., the sun had already heated the front steps enough to stir the bees. I placed the decoy package gently on my welcome mat, careful not to jostle the contents. The outer box looked pristine, sealed tight and labeled just right. Electronics, high value, signature not required. Then I returned inside, coffee in hand, eyes locked on the monitor streaming from my hidden cameras. It took less than 20 minutes. At precisely 10:52 a.m., Karen emerged from her front door, leash in one hand, her ever-smug poodle prancing beside her. She wore a wide-brimmed hat, white capri pants, and a pink visor, like she was heading to a country club instead of looting a neighbor's porch. She didn't look left or right. She didn't hesitate. She strode across the street like she owned it. I held my breath as she climbed the 2 steps to my porch, glanced briefly at the door, and reached down to snatch the box. My cameras caught everything. High resolution, crystal clear audio. Even the smug little chuckle she let slip as she turned back toward her house. She never even made it halfway. A low buzz started first, then a higher-pitched whine as the containers within the box shifted, triggered by movement. One of the tiny ventilation holes popped open from the jostling. Karen paused, puzzled, shifting the box to inspect it. The buzz grew louder. Her poodle growled softly, then yelped as the first bee squeezed out and darted toward the open air. She froze, then squealed. The box shook. More bees burst free. A yellow-black storm erupted in front of her face. She dropped the package, like it had grown teeth, and flailed backward, swinging the leash in blind panic. Her dog bolted, the retractable leash snapping from her hand and skittering across the sidewalk. And the bees, they followed her like a curse. Karen screamed, a high, reedy screech that echoed off the manicured hedges and freshly painted fences. She stumbled across the street, arms waving like a malfunctioning windmill, swatting at the tiny assailants as if she could erase the consequences of her own greed. Neighbors emerged from their doors, startled and curious. A few laughed before they realized what was happening. Someone pulled out a phone and started recording. I watched it all unfold, both on my screen and in real time through the blinds. Heart pounding with satisfaction. Justice, as it turned out, had wings and a short temper. She finally reached her porch, clawing at the screen door, leaving the decoy box abandoned at the curb. Several bees still circled her head as she vanished inside, slamming the door behind her. It was over in less than 90 seconds. I walked outside a few minutes later with a pair of tongs and carefully retrieved the bee box. Most had either flown off or died, but a few stragglers remained inside the container. I waved to the gathering crowd. Just another delivery day, I said with a shrug. Some chuckled, others gave cautious nods, but most eyes darted between me and Karen's front door, now sealed tight, blinds drawn. By sunset, the neighborhood was buzzing, figuratively this time. I uploaded the footage to a private cloud drive. The high-def video of Karen's porch theft, followed by her screaming flight from a box of bees, was equal parts satisfying and surreal. But I wasn't done yet. I emailed the video, anonymously, of course, to the HOA board, the local neighborhood, Facebook group, and a few choice residents I knew Karen liked to impress. The subject line read simply, "Special delivery for Meadowlark's favorite porch pirate." No captions, no commentary, just the footage. By morning, it had already spread, and Karen, well, she'd have no idea the real sting was still coming. By Saturday morning, the neighborhood was electric. The video had gone viral, at least within the walls of our quiet HOA community. Big on Karen had become the unspoken nickname tossed around at driveways, whispered at mailboxes, and smirked about in the HOA Facebook group, which now had over 100 comments under the shared video post. Even Phil from next door added a gif of a bee with boxing gloves. People were laughing, but under the humor was something sharper, relief, because it wasn't just my packages she'd taken. Later that afternoon, I found a note taped to my door. No signature, just block handwriting. "Thank you. She took my Kindle last month. I didn't have proof." Another neighbor left cookies. Someone else dropped off a handwritten list of all the deliveries that had mysteriously disappeared over the past year. Karen's name was mentioned in every single one. Still, I hadn't heard a word from the queen bee herself. Not until Monday night. I was watching old home videos on my couch when the knock came. Sharp, urgent, 3 beats. I checked the porch cam. Karen stood there in a beige sun hat and sunglasses, a scarf wrapped around her neck like she was shielding herself from paparazzi. I opened the door, phone recording discreetly in my palm. She didn't wait for pleasantries. "You set me up," she hissed, voice sharp and low like a coiled snake. "Those bees could have killed me." "They didn't," I replied calmly. "But the theft charges might." Her mouth opened, then snapped shut. A flash of fear crossed her face. "I want the video taken down, all of them." I blinked, feigning confusion. "You mean the one where you steal my property for the 4th time? Or the one where you run screaming from a box you weren't supposed to open?" She stepped forward, but I held firm. "Karen," I said evenly, "I filed a formal complaint with the HOA, along with the footage, and several neighbors have backed it up. You violated HOA rules, state laws, and, frankly, basic decency. This isn't just a video now, it's a pattern." Her shoulders slumped. "What do you want?" she muttered. The real question. Finally. "I want you to resign from the HOA Enforcement Committee. I want a public apology posted to the neighborhood page. And I want restitution, an itemized check for the stolen goods. Or I take it all to small claims." She opened her mouth to protest, then closed it again. The fight had left her. "Fine," she said. "But you're no saint either. You sent me live bees." "Only because calling the police would have taken longer," I said, stepping back inside. "You have 48 hours. I shut the door on her sputtering indignation. 2 days later, her resignation appeared on the HOA board. That same evening, a shaky but legible apology was posted to the Facebook group, to the residents of Meadowlark Hills. I sincerely apologize for any inconvenience, loss, or stress I've caused regarding package deliveries. My actions were inappropriate, and I take full responsibility. I have resigned from my HOA position, effective immediately. Please accept my apology. Karen B. It wasn't much, but it was enough. And the check? Delivered in a blank envelope, slid under my door. It didn't cover everything, but it was more about the message than the money. The best part, Karen kept to herself after that. No more patrols. No more complaints about lawn heights or mailbox colors. She walked her dog at night, avoided eye contact, and, for once, treated neighbors like people, not peasants. The porch pirate had been unmasked. The tyranny had ended. The HOA, at least for now, had one less Karen steering the ship. And me, I kept the footage, backed up in 3 places, just in case she ever forgot what happened when you mess with someone's deliveries. And underestimate the sting of poetic justice.